Hello, and welcome to Nintendo Obscura, where we dig into the vaults of obscure ROM hacks and hidden gems of the 8-bit library. My name is Brandon, and I will be your tour guide. Join me. Roll the tape. Today we are embarking on the illustrious ROM hack Castlevania Shadows, copyright 2003 by Rayside Productions. In clear juxtaposition to Blood Moon, this hack has a distinctly blue theme. To me, the 8-bit era is one of the most prolific times of gaming. With the release of the PS5 on the horizon, we could see another upgrade to the dynamic and scale of 3D games. With each generation upscaling the prior, bringing graphical fidelity and realism to unprecedented levels. With each upgrade, it can often make the previous generation look already dated. When we look back to even the PS3 or Xbox 360, they already show to be products of their time and production capability, being impressive for the time but seemingly outdated and blasé by today's standards. I personally feel the PS1 and N64, along with the late 90s era of early polygonal graphics, have sort of a charm to them, built due to the limitation of 32 and 64-bit processing power of the time, yet to me in retrospect kind of have a lo-fi appeal. I actually enjoy the low-res polygons, especially if stylized to accentuate that limitation, as opposed to attempting to be realistic. Much like Final Fantasy VII's chibi polygon characters. But outside of these styles and unique takes on the graphics, earlier 3D games from the 6th to 7th generation seems to have somewhat aged poorly. I personally still enjoy many of these games, but they don't hold up as well 10 to 20 years down the road. And especially with modern TVs instead of their CRTV counterparts, they can look blurry, messy, and somewhat unappealing. But the generations prior, the 16 and 8-bit era to me held the strongest beacon of timelessness and style to its graphics and music. Might be dated to some, yet to many also ages like fine wine, unlike the genesis of early 3D graphics to come after. To this day, many indie titles purposely implement 8 to 16-bit graphics for their games, not just to adhere to the rose-tinted nostalgic aspect, which is admittedly strong, but to also expand upon a style that is unique and timeless all its own. I absolutely love the way the developers of the 80s used the graphical limitation of the 8-bit era to create these dynamic lo-fi worlds. How such a limited resolution can be used to create these beautiful landscapes and minimalist characters, almost using pixels as tiles you might see on the walls of ancient mosaic ruins. How they would use the opposites of the color spectrum to make backgrounds and foregrounds that pop, the neon color grade that adds a chromatic saturation reflective of the era, or the limited MIDI chiptune audio that further individualizes the stylization of the music, that of which is often mimicked in modern electronic music today, like the resurgence of synthwave, for example. And now, about 3 minutes in, I present to you Castlevania Shadows, another stylized ROM hack of the original Castlevania for NES, circa 1987. Well, this hack is 2003, but the original Castlevania was 1987. In my opinion, ROM hacks are a subversion of the cultural zeitgeist of video games. A mosaic collage created from the pieces of a forgotten lore. I should mention, I'm using the Retrobit Bluetooth Sega Genesis transparent blue controller to play this today. A personal favorite of mine. I've always had an affinity for the Sega Genesis controller. It just seemed so savvy at the time as a kid in the early 90s. Like, what? 6 face buttons? Absolute madness. This also has shoulder buttons added to give a satisfying click and make it more usable with many Steam games as well. Anyways, back to the game. I really enjoy the purple backdrop and the blue Simon in the foreground, along with the health bars in the HUD and the Roman numeral being in the same Azul theme. These chromatic color gradings really give a personalized theme to be remembered by in tandem with the actual geographical mods they add to each level. With Blood Moon having an orange and crimson motif, Shadows clearly being blue and violet, Chorus of Mysteries having a yellow and dark teal design, and even Orchestra of Despair having a stark purple and medieval grays. Just barely made it past the crushing platforms unscathed. You'll see the skull totems back to dinosaur dragon heads in this edit, spitting fireballs with reckless abandon. The spirits are also in the same burgundy as the totems. Again, I appreciate the color matching. Here through these corridors, we can see the misunderstood Medusa's hellspawn, yet again with the rippling frequency to the bane of my existence. As we make our way past the indigo hallways and the endless barrage of floating snakeheads, we yet again find ourselves at the precipice of Medusa's lair, and she is not happy with your rude intrusion. You, in response, drop an onslaught of holy water Molotov cocktails, which are an elixir of blessed liquid and disrespect. The platforming parts are significantly more sparse in this edit and require precision jumping, a delight to any platform junkie as myself. I also like how they use peach and pink schemes for this area between stage 7 and 8. I always thought that these were floating platforms made of broken ruins in the original version of this level, playing the original Castlevania as a kid. Like some magical eminence of Dracula permeating from this decrepit castle made from surrounding loose structures that levitate. Pieces of platforms and statues floating in midair with just enough space for a foolish mortal as yourself to jump across, with rude crows and angry skeletons chucking their own femurs. I wanted to point out here that the sound begins to clip a little bit, and I don't know if that's because of the emulation or the ROM hack, but it's kind of funny. After the first tier, we are now at stage 9, which is chock full of even more ruthless and unforgiving platforming, with more skeleton grunts to chuck their own porous frames at you. Outside of avoiding the bones flying in your direction, which can cause a mid-air knockback resulting in you falling to your death, you also have to jump at the very edge of each platform to successfully make it to the next one. One slip or miscalculated leap will result in you again falling to the abyss. I've made it to the end of the platforming hell and onto the threshold of the second boss, or bosses I should say, the twin mummies. I'm pushing it to the brink with 1 HP left, but alas, here I stand, dispatching the last of the minions with one final skull totem and Medusa head. And now, here I am, the sacred tomb of the mummies, undisturbed by mortal flesh for centuries. I'm here to defuse their curse and, oh never mind, I'm dead. Thank you for watching. Until next time.